Okay, we're looking at some of the outtakes. This is the full length shot of that beginning of the vacation montage. And when you see it in its full length here, I think you can read a little more closely the sense that the train is, in fact, a miniature. And the middle background. See, there's also a miniature train crossing diagonally. The print quality, as you can see, of these outtakes is nothing spectacular because they obviously were rejected and they were not preserved with the same care as the original negative. This is the shot that I was talking about the woman from the city's walk, done as a full master. The beginning of it is all the same here with the focus on the foreground, and as it pans off of the couple coming over to her, and the camera starts to move with her. The timing on the horses coming up is a little bit different. Crossing the camera about the same place, and camera comes around behind and starts to follow her. And this is all very much the same. She passes the window with the light effect happening on her. Coming up and stopping the way it did with the window framed. Except this is now where we cut inside. And then when we cut back to her, she was at a different place. She was supposed to still been here, but you'll see at the end of the shot. Now see, instead of walking off down the road, where we see right behind her there, she continues back from where she came, and she stops. And this look that she made where she stops here and calls to him is actually the part of the shot that was used after we cut from him inside. Here's an interesting outtake from the famous marsh shot, and you can actually see the back wall of the stage here printed this light. What happens here is he comes around, the camera moves around past him, and he goes off to the right behind these bushes. Instead of the camera staying with him, something very odd happens here, and I don't know why they did. Camera pans off of him and then speeds up and bounces like crazy and catches up to him again. Obviously, this is not nearly as compelling as the version that was used. This is the same. The camera pans off of him over and then moves through the branches with that prow that was mounted on the front of the platform pushing through and ending up on Margaret Livingston the way it had before. I don't see much of a ripple effect happening in the water back there, though, which was very strong in the other. I don't know whether there might have been a miscue here or they didn't have it actually moving or whatever. Maybe it's just the exposure of the shot. It's so bright and burned out you can't tell that it's actually rippling. Okay, this is very much a part of the Strauss montage. This is the kind of thing that's, was real bread and butter for Strauss. Here's that famous shot that had the super of the water over him as he's imagining himself being drowned. I'm not quite sure where this was. Some of these are just bits and pieces of shots. The woman from the city leaving at the end of the picture. There's a slight variant of the shot where she's running away after she escaped from the lake to encounter the tram that's taking her into the city. Timing is the same. Camera pans off of her, picks her up again. Everything about this shot is pretty identical to the shot that was actually used. Maybe the trolley bounces a little bit more and gives itself away. Now, this is very interesting because this is the entire scene played out in the master. Remember, there was a lot of cutting into different angles here, and the last part of it was done from over the shoulder of the trolley man. It's hard to read this because this is so burned out. To read the background. But was a part of the shot that was actually built on the back lot. And at the very beginning of the shot, you saw a few trees linking it. It didn't have any of the water because this was not actually shot at the lake. But this was the shot that transitioned from the end of the lake part of it into the actual part of the city. You'll be able to read it a little more clearly when it comes around here and gets into more of a shadow area. You'll read the background. But this was all done on the back lot. The very first part of the scene, of course, was shot up at Lake Arrowhead. Now you're coming in a little bit better exposure balance here. You can see the cars outside. It was interesting to see that all is the one shot without the coverage. The timing on this is the same. And as I said, this is very much a Carl Struess New York type shot. And when you look at his photographs from 1910 to 1912, you'll see this kind of backlighting is very typical. Here's a good look at the shot as burned out as it is, a long held part of a shot that's very short. This gives a full sense of the diminishing perspective of Gleese's set with the buildings in the distance that are built at scale and the movement way in the background. You can't tell, but supposedly there are midgets there and smaller vehicles. This shot was only used for just a few seconds in the finished film. But this is obviously the complete take. I don't know whether the big hair at the bottom was something was in the projector when they did telecine or what. At first, I thought maybe they didn't use this take because there was a hair in the gate, but that's a huge hair, so it's obviously not from the camera. And it's there in a number of the shots. A variation of this opening shot actually before they entered. It might have just been a head trim from the shot before they entered. These are also just little fragments. You can see the perspective, the false perspective, and the roof beams back there. I haven't seen any difference between this take and the one that was actually used. Although at the very beginning, if you go back on, you can see the actors for a few frames are actually just standing there, stopped, and then they start to move. It's like Murnau yelled action. Here's the take they didn't use where they come out, they emerge here and stand and there's the woman standing in front of them. The Rocher's name is on the slate, not Struess's. Rocher again. There's a little shot of Murnau there.